Is $80 a good price for a video game? Well, it's a tough call. I think that some games are definitely worth a higher price. However, many games, like everything that EA releases, is not worth, 20 or 30 bucks. They're kind of dog shit. But I think that we can all think back to a time when we had to save up a little money, work some extra shifts or just sort of cut back on your daily spends just so that you could save enough money to get a game you really wanted. For example, when I was in 8th grade, I really wanted Black Ops 3 on the Xbox, and I had a monthly allowance of about 50 bucks. Well, I actually kind of took a loan from my dad. It was like a birthday gift, the $100 digital deluxe, all that fancy shit. And then I had to pay him back for it. But regardless, it was about $100 that we spent on Black Ops 3, and I ended up getting around 1,600 hours out of the game on Xbox, which to me is kind of fucking crazy. If you think about that, 16 hours of gameplay to a single dollar, which I know it's not all about the hours per dollar thing, but that's a pretty good fucking rate, man. That's like more than half a day for a buck of this game. I played this day in and day out for eons. My entire 8th grade was basically becoming a fucking semi-pro on Black Ops 3. Not really. I actually was kind of not that great, but I thought I was good because I could really kick everybody's ass in the public games that I got into. But anyways, I got a ton of value out of that game. And while it was expensive, I wasn't buying a ton of games at the time, so it was kind of like save up, get one special one, and then that's what you got. And I played the shit out of that game, and I still play it. I even bought it again on PC. I paid around 55 bucks and got all the content, all the DLC and everything. And on PC, I didn't put as many hours, but I got about 160. And that's a much lower hours per dollar rate, but it's still quite a few hours for, a game that has just as much content as I got on the Xbox for just over half the price. Later on, I did pay another $30 for the Zombies Chronicles DLC. It was like an additional DLC that wasn't included in the pass or whatever. So let's say total, I spent close to $190 for Black Ops 3 on all platforms, and I got nearly 1,800 hours out of it. In my opinion, that's pretty worth it. That's honestly pretty worth it. And obviously, it's hard to tell that before you get the game, but I was just so excited for Black Ops 3. I was so excited. Everything that I saw, trailers, gameplay, whatever, just added to my hype. So I was more than happy to pay that kind of price. I knew that $100 meant that I wasn't going to buy anything else for a while, and I wasn't going to buy anything else leading up to it. It was an expensive fucking game, but it was worth it to me. Another example is a little bit different, but a game called Terraria. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm a huge Terraria fan. I've bought it on several platforms, including PC, Xbox, and mobile. Yes, I bought it on my phone. I actually bought it on my phone first before any other platform because that was my only option. But anyways, on mobile, I paid about $6 or $7. I can't really remember. And unfortunately, I can't find any data that shows my playtime on it. But I will tell you that I played it again, day in and day out. This was before Black Ops 3. This was if you know Terraria, then you'll know what this. I played it before they added hard mode on mobile. It was a long time ago. It was 2014 or 15 or something. And I have played it a lot. I played it through all the updates. I played it very frequently right up until they redid all the controls, which was, I think, 4 years ago or something. But anyways, I played the shit out of that game on my phone, and it was $6 or $7. So I can't quantify the amount of hours, but I have to say it's at least 1,000. I honestly think it's more than that, but just to keep a nice round number, we'll say it's 1,000 hours. I also bought it on PC for about $20, and on PC alone, I have 1,600 hours as far as Steam says. So that's, if we're doing our little calculation, $20, 1,600 hours, $80 an hour, 80 hours a dollar. 80 hours per dollar. That is a lot of fucking time. I love the game so much. I even bought it on Xbox, where I'm pretty sure it was $20. I didn't play it as much though. I didn't like the controller, so I got 120 hours out of it. But overall, paid about $50 for Terraria on all platforms. And I have played nearly 3,000 hours combined across all platforms. So how does this apply to the current situation? Well, I would love to say that, I'd be happy to pay $80 for Terraria because I know that I'll get my value out of it. But obviously, I'm only saying that because, hindsight, and I don't actually have to pay $80. People always say, I'd love to pay that, but it's easy to say that. You don't actually have the bill to pay, bro. Anyways, it's really easy to tell after you play all these games that they were very much worth the money. But the problem is we can't really tell that with new releases. At least you can't tell as easily. Looking at all the trailers for like Ubisoft games and EA games, it's easy to tell from the get-go that they're just reskins of every other game they play, or release rather. And yet they're still charging like $70 as a starting price, which that's a whole other thing we won't get into. But the fact that they have a fucking starting price and they just go up from there is insane. The times are dire, my friends. I can't really talk about rising development costs or layoffs or crunch time or any of that stuff you normally hear from a video like this, because we're all already aware of it to some degree, and we also don't really know what it's like on the inside, unless you're a previous developer. But it makes a little bit of sense to me that games have to be costing more compared to they did in the last decade. You can find that proof in anybody's grocery receipts, I promise. However, as many people have pointed out, the studios could and should just try to make smaller games. Obviously, this will never happen from the big guys like EA or Activision, but that's how we end up getting these $5 to $10 bangers like Lethal Company or Balatro. Smaller scale games that don't get rushed and don't have crunch time. Games that I believe the devs actually enjoy creating. Thus, everybody in this situation is happy. Games are priced accordingly, they're smaller, take less time, cost less to make. It just makes sense. But then we have these giant asshats at Ubisoft who, let's face it, copy and paste mechanics and give it a quick paint job, emphasis on quick, and turn out a ton of games that have long since lost their depth and love. And then they have the nerve to start the price at $70. The thing is though, we know that. We all know that Ubisoft or EA or Activision have long lost since their integrity. We can see the sham that they're selling, and while millions of less aware people still throw money at them, it's not everybody. We can see the value, or lack of, in these games, and we don't buy them. I myself haven't bought a Far Cry or Assassin's Creed or whatever the fuck EA makes in years. My point is, we understand value. We understand what our dollar is worth. Think honestly to yourself, how many games have you paid at least $60 for that you hardly ended up playing? Or maybe even $70 to $100 to get all the DLC and fucking cosmetics or whatever, and you still hardly touched it. I'm guessing it's an amount that you won't say with pride. And neither will I. Point being, we can make better choices and we can spend a little wiser. This somewhat brings us to Borderlands 4, the sneaky subject of the video. There was all that drama about Randy saying, true fans will find a way. And honestly, as obnoxious as it is, I think he kind of has a point. I promise I am not sucking off Gearbox, but let's think about it. It doesn't just have to refer to Borderlands. Can you honestly say you've never saved up your money, put in some extra time at work, or just cut down on fucking fast food or something for just a few weeks or a month to save up for a game you really wanted? I feel like that's probably a common experience. And while that doesn't mean you have to do it this time around, it doesn't have to be Borderlands 4, I do think people have blown up a little too much at what he's saying. It's impossible to tell right now if his game will be a good one. Especially after Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's, morale is surely a little low, but you don't need to find $80 and sacrifice it at Gearbox's feet in the next 5 minutes or something. We have time. We have time to observe what they're showing. We have time to digest our opinions on the game before it even comes out. And even once it comes out, you have time to look at reviews or early looks or whatever information comes out. We don't have to determine its value right this second, and I don't see why everybody seems to feel that way. Listen, I don't want all my games to cost $80, dude. I really don't. I don't think it's deserved, and I don't think it's right. But I do think that some games are more valuable than others. Like we mentioned earlier, those games you can just sink 1,000+ hours into are truly amazing, and often they're worth way more than you actually paid for them. I just want us to keep in mind that if we trust a developer, if we've bought their products before and we love them, this kind of doesn't apply to Gearbox anymore because not a lot of people liked Borderlands 3 or Tiny Tina's, but we can make an informed decision as to whether or not it's worth our money. Me personally, I'm thinking Borderlands 4 looks pretty damn good so far. And on a quick side note, it's going to be on fucking Game Pass. And if you're not able to play Game Pass, that is unfortunate, but you could subscribe to it for like a month. Play it through the entire game, and if you end up loving it enough, you can either continue your subscription or just buy it if you just want to play that game. Like, I feel like the barrier to entry is pretty small these days with a lot of games. Back to the point though, I don't feel like it's impossible to read between the lines of Randy's tweets and see that he's really trying to be genuine. I think maybe just people are quick to snap these days and nobody takes a second to think. Honestly though, I do sort of feel that impending doom of the games industry. Feels like the bubble is getting pretty damn thin and catastrophe is on the horizon. But is that just because everybody else is saying it? I obviously hope that the giant studios could open their fucking eyes and actually make their games worth the price again. But without the bubble popping, I don't see how that could happen. So ultimately, just slow down with the snap decisions and think back to games that you feel like you got more than your money's worth out of, and try applying that in a hopeful way to upcoming games that excite you. For me, that's Borderlands 4. Again, the barrier to entry is pretty low, man. Just get a month of Game Pass. I'll do a lot of deals. You can get it real cheap. There's a ton of games on there. I'm not a fucking Microsoft ambassador, but if you got a PC or an Xbox, you can do it. And they're like, dude, just try the games out. Like, you don't have to pay the $80. You know, it's not a do or die thing. Like, it gets me a little worked up a little bit. Sometimes I lose myself in Twitter threads of people just fucking blowing the hell up and ripping their hair out. It's like, dude, there's easier ways to do it. I'm not going to say, sail in the high seas, but you can get a pretty damn cheap ticket into a lot of games and see how you feel about them. Like, get that month of Game Pass, play Borderlands 4 as much as you can stomach it in that month. And if it's worth it, buy the fucking game because it's clearly worth it and you can get your value out of it. If you don't like it, cancel your subscription and play something else. There's like 100 fucking games on there. Like, it's not the end of the fucking world, man. It gets me worked up. But I'm starting to trip over my own tongue, so I should probably cut it off here. Quick personal message. I have been exceedingly busy in the last few weeks. I ended up adopting 2 cats. One of them I found in the middle of the road. I will put some pictures up if you want to see how he looks now. The first pictures were kind of gruesome, so I won't show those, but he was in rough shape. We brought him home, took care of him, and then we got him a friend. So I have essentially been taking care of newborns, and I have been so fucking busy with that and my actual full-time job. I really haven't had time for YouTube videos, so sorry for the break, but I really appreciate the response to those 3 Borderlands videos. They were the most viewed videos I have ever made, and while this channel does look empty besides them, I promise you, I have been on this platform for about 9 years, and I have made a good handful of videos that I was never proud of, and yeah, I don't want to dive into it all, but I appreciate the response to those videos, and I want to keep it up. So thank you for listening. I hope you don't hate me, and I hope that you don't think that I'm on Randy's payroll, because I'm not. I'm still going to be paying for this game one way or another, and I just hope that it's worth our money. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all for hanging out on the Late Night Crunch. See ya.